The following audio may contain content inappropriate for younger audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to the Save Point podcast.
I have no sound effects to add to this. I'm so sorry, listeners.
Peter won't join
Finger
our sound
guns
effects
everywhere.
You should
Come
make a
on.
soundboard.
How do you do that? That thing that what is it? That what's the guy on not Arrested Development? Parks and Rec always does. John Ralphio. What is it? I don't know. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
I see people do it with their mouth all the time, and I'm like, how
And
did
it's
you
like,
do that?
How?
How do you make that noise? It sounds like it comes out of a machine.
Basically, no, yeah. Like whenever anyone beatboxes and they're like really good at it, and I'm super impressed because it's like you are basically generating the sounds of an 808. How the fuck are you doing that?
Yeah, it doesn't make any fucking sense. It's okay. I mean,
No
I am at,
earthly
like,
sense, at least.
yeah, I know. And on top of it, I'm like way too white to understand.
Hey, Matisyasu, a white Jew, is able to do that crazy, so I think it's possible.
Oh, I know. It's just more like my own internal lack of any rhythm, shape, or form.
Me too.
Like, y'all listen to my introductions on a podcast. There's like no rhythm to it. It's like, hey, yeah, hey, what's up? I was working at KRT. I was working at KRT 91.7, and he's just like, just talk like more rhythmically. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, just do the less of what you were doing more there. Yeah, it was great.
Well, this is not the Beatbox podcast. This is actually the Save Point podcast, where we talk about video game news and what we're playing, and we're talking about topics. And this week we will be talking about games in development hell in honor of the long-awaited release of Final Fantasy 15.
So excited.
Which
Yeah,
hopefully
thank God.
some of us have played by the next round, but still hasn't shown up on our doors yet. Sorry, folks.
Not
Yeah.
yet. Wednesday.
Not yet.
Waiting.
Not yet. We don't have enough leeway with the gaming industry
Yeah.
to get them to send us stuff. We say too much bad shit for them to be. We're rebels. That's why we don't have games early, and not because we're not recognized as official.
Maybe they'll eventually send
Yeah.
it to us because of that. They're just like they'll want to hear us shit talk their games or praise them. Who knows?
Right.
I don't know.
Effect.
I'd be willing to suck some dick for a early Final Fantasy 15 copy. I'm just saying. Just saying. You hear me, Square Enix?
I see how you dressed your male protagonists. I know what you're up to.
Yeah, we know what's going on.
We all saw Van. We all played 12.
We knew what that was. You thought you could hide it, but you can't have Balthier and Van in the same game. Game. Yeah, it's really getting Freudian now. You can't have Balthier and Van in the same game and pretend we don't all know what's happening.
Balthier
all
and Bash.
know.
Oh God.
Spend 10 seconds on
Bash,
DeviantArt, and you'll
Bash.
see everyone knows.
Yeah, Bash and Balthier taking turns, baby. Okay.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Oh my
Somebody
God.
save me.
Wow. Just
So,
stop while
Jack,
you're
what
like,
have you been playing this week?
Battlefield 1, and I have to admit that it is weird because I've finished Titanfall 2's campaign. I've played enough of Battlefield 1's campaign that I know that I don't want to continue playing Battlefield 1's campaign.
Interesting.
Well, I don't mind it. There's this one segment where you like it does. So I understand where people are coming from about the story. It's supposed to be more poignant. It's the First World War where it's like there's no like true evil side per se,
Get your
as
sad
opposed to
on.
World War II. There's exactly yeah. It's all about like sad and wasn't this just terrible?
Yeah, and
take emotional enjoyment from killing.
and the campaign jumps around to like different perspectives, different parts of different areas, like where it was being fought too, doesn't it?
Yeah. So one of my favorite moments is you're piloting this tank around and you're kind of immersed in the mud and you're trying to fight out of this tank, and as you're losing,
I know what you're talking
there's
about.
this bit where like they call an artillery call down on the tank's position, and it's going to kill everyone, but it's also going to kill the platoon that's overrunning you, and you literally send out this pigeon to do it, and the game like takes over control of the pigeon, so you're like piloting this pigeon through these rings to send it to command to deliver the message to like kill all your men. which is kind of cool on the offset, but like it's one of those moments where I'm like, this is fucking stupid. I'm flying a pigeon.
Yeah, it takes you out of it for
well, it's one of those
It's
times
wait,
like
what?
I think everyone remembers the scene in Modern Warfare 1 where the nuclear bomb goes off and you crawl around, which by the way is a mistake. You can't actually stand up in that famously, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
But everyone was like, "Oh, you can't. You have to crawl, and it takes so long, and it's so emotional." But anyways, this is still a good moment. But I think every shooter since then has to be like, we have to have our intense moment. And the pigeon is cool, but when I saw it, I was also like, I get it. You're cool.
Yeah.
You know. Well
and I'll say this: the issue for me is that when you it goes on a little too long is the biggest issue. So like,
if first I'm a pigeon.
Yeah. No. Like it goes on for like 2 seconds. I was like, oh wow, this is really emotionally powerful. And then like after like a minute of piloting a pigeon through hoops, I'm like, seriously.
I think the hoops ruined it.
Exactly. It's like
64.
it'd be one thing if I was like, I don't know. It'd be one thing if I'm just like guiding it along and it's like on rails or whatever. But it's like I'm just like I can like miss the hoops and stuff, and I'm like, fuck you. It's just like, you're not gonna make a pigeon flying game difficult.
It would be one thing if it was Tweety Bird from Looney Tunes, but it's another thing when it's like super realistic pigeon from Battlefield 1.
Right, and it's supposed to be
this
the art
pigeon
moment,
seen some shit.
Yeah, it's like if like the no Russian section, like you could fail it. You know what I mean? Or like it was hard. It's like, well, it's not the point of that section, you know? You're supposed to...
You can, which I always found weird that you could fail that mission. Like, because the cop sequence, I did die in there, and then, like, I died at the end of the mission. I was like, why does this make any difference? Like, isn't it more successful if you just died, and then, like, I guess your Russian comrades get killed, and then it's all revealed? I was like, I don't understand this.
That's always my problem with Heavy Rain. It's like, oh, you can't die here, but you can die here. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, if he dies, he dies. Shouldn't it just be the story? Yeah.
Well, I think that's plot armor, period, in games like this. Is like, it's like, and that's the one thing I love about Dark Souls. Jack's going on about Dark Souls again.
Take a shot.
Is like the death mechanic. Yeah. Apparently, everyone gets mad when you talk about Dark Souls now because it's divisive. Whatever.
Yeah.
But I think the only thing I'll give
fans.
to.
You just won't shut up about how great it is.
Yeah. No. No. Like the fan base is like batshit. Like seriously, I'm there with you. Get good is bullshit, especially like the ways you can play this game to make it easier. It's just like a deep fan base and it's fun, but like get good has always been like bullshit. But all right, because I am not a good enough. Yeah, okay, whatever. Bullshit aside. But the point is, like, the death mechanic is built in, so, like, you'll kill people and die and then come back and they'll, like, remember what you did in your past life before you, like, died and went back to the bonfire. Nice. And this is the thing. That's the thing is, like, the death mechanic is built into the game so that you die hundreds of times, but it's understood that you're rejuvenating, which is kind of like the core theme of like, perseverance is tied into you as a character. Your actual perseverance to play the game is what keeps your character alive, literally. And only like setting, like the theme is like setting the game down is what actual game over screen for that game is. Yeah. Which is, I always thought was a cool way to tie it in. Because, like, the death, especially in shooters, especially the last time shooters, especially, like, newer shooters tend to, like, especially in campaigns, will drop you as close to the point that you were at. Like, the save systems in these games have gotten so ridiculous. Like, it'll drop you into situations where you're just like, damn, dude. And it'll, like, refill up your ammo. It'll do all these things. Like, it's funny, like, when I actually felt like something was getting hard, I would die, and then it would almost immediately give me a boost. Like, I very rarely ever die in either Titanfall. Well, Titanfall 2 has some complicated bits with the Titans and other situations, and I often died multiple times failing wall running sections because that's Titanfall. But it's cool. I mean, they're still beautiful sections, but it's like Portal. You fail multiple times. But Battlefield 1, I don't think I ever died in a campaign like twice in a row very quickly.
Interesting.
So I don't know, but I definitely think that, like, as I said, that I like Titanfall 2's multiplayer, but I find myself gravitating towards Battlefield 1, and its style of multiplayer is just so dominant, and there's so many smaller things, even though I'm so much more interested in Titanfall 2's multiplayer and the style of it, and it's more action-packed and fast wall running and everything. I just find that, like, God, it's so easy to, like, slip into Battlefield and just be like groove out. I don't know, like it's almost like It's almost like if you were going to take drugs and play video games, like Battlefield is like the master of this. I don't
That
know.
was not an analogy I saw coming.
Well, no, I mean, I hear tell from my friends, you guys. No, I'm just kidding. But that's like the. I do feel like it's one of those things where I look up. I never look up from Titanfall, but I do look up from Battlefield and be like, oh, it's 3 a.m. Fuck.
Interesting. All right, Peter, what have you been playing this week?
Honestly, I have kind of slipped up and not been playing much. The only thing I can say I have played is episode 4 of Telltale's Batman. I had a good time. I had a good time. I remember when we had our episode about Telltale. And we talked about how like usually for these episodic games, it's their third episode that's like really strong and like really brings about the twist, and then it kind of goes a little downhill after that.
Yeah.
As far as like episode 4 being like more slower pace before you get to like the real climax of episode 5. Similar thing happened in this episode. Can't deny that. Won't deny that. But I still found it interesting the stuff that they have set up for episode 5 for this game's conclusion, and even how in episode 4 they were like, hey, so even now we're still going to introduce to you Batman characters that that you are very familiar with, because at least for this part of the story they're kind of important. So yeah, so I don't want to spoil it for like our listeners, but also you guys, in case you do play it. So but yeah, I also like though how I once again had another chance to choose to go into a situation either as Bruce or as Batman. Me personally, at least for this playthrough, I chose to go Bruce Wayne, just going without my suit and shit. Next playthrough, I'm definitely gonna go in as the Dark Knight and like full on armored up and shit, and see how that scenario plays out.
Nice.
But yeah, episode 4. Solid. Looking forward to episode 5 because I want to see how Bruce Wayne / Batman like kicks some ass and brings Gotham back from the brink of destruction.
I saw the cutscene where he bones Catwoman.
Oh yeah,
I have to admit, I was like, and I apologies for using that term. That just kind of slipped out.
I mean, that had sex, so yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I like it, especially when I'm describing like a very poignant moment, which I think is like probably the best sex scene in all of Batman.
Nice.
Because it is.
Nice.
Yeah.
Especially like better than the Barbara Gordon sex scene,
Well,
which actually did happen in comics.
The sex scene in the room is better than that scene. Sex scene in the room. Vomit.
Damn.
Yeah, especially when he's like, "Oh, you cuckold Dick Grayson. You cuckold your like adopted son." God, the Bat family is so fucked up.
They really are. I mean, because you have Bruce, you have Dick, you have Barbara, you have Damian, you have Jason Todd. Then you have God, I forget her name. The woman who is Batwoman.
Oh
God,
yeah, who's a lesbian? I don't remember her character's name.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Right.
Fuck, I know her.
I forget her name, but like just as a comment on Batwoman, I appreciate at least as far as the backstory of her that
Jesus.
Yeah, that's it. That's
Jesus,
it. Kane.
And she's got
Kane.
the red hair, and I think she's actually got a cool bat design. I actually like her design. Quite a bit.
It's badass.
Awesome.
One of the things that I like about her is that she is not necessarily like directly affiliated with the Bat family. She picked up the moniker because she looked at them and was like, I see what they're doing. I like what you're doing. I want to do the same thing. I'm doing this of my own choice. And it's like, okay, that's like an extra level of badass for you. You go.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Ben,
I am playing.
So I wanted to just jump in here. Go ahead. Sorry.
I've been playing Speaking of development hell, a game that was in development hell for a very long time. I didn't realize I was looking up earlier today, which is Doom. Doom.
Yeah.
Doom. Doom.
Finally got around to this game, and I feel like a dick for not paying full price. I mean, I got it for $20, so it's kind of nice, but it's almost like I don't know if my game would have mattered that much, but this is the kind of game you should support because this game is pretty goddamn phenomenal. I love it a lot.
Visceral and in your face and gory and fucking amazing.
So good.
Yeah,
it really is impressive because they were trying to create like sort of a Doom 4, a more like cerebral like cover shooty game, and then literally they were like in 2013 like fuck it, we're remaking it, we're making it like the old Doom but in modern time, and it's super delivered. I think this is their best game since Doom 3, which I like quite a bit, but I think it's even better than Doom 3.
Oh yeah,
it's such a good game. In terms of just enemies alone, it's so good. It's so good at making you keep moving. There's always different enemies coming in very different ways. There's enemies who want to punch you to death. There's enemies who shoot stuff at you. There's enemies who jump around. There's enemies who slowly hover towards you. There's big Hulk and tank like enemies. And I'm always constantly switching weapons. I'm always using every weapon in the game. Each one feels like organic and unique. The music is fucking perfect. It's so
good. That is a video game soundtrack that I like need to have like in my possession.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I can't speak highly enough of this game. I'm sad it took me so goddamn long to get around to it because I'm loving the hell of it.
One of the things that I always thought was amazing is just like the way that they characterize him specifically.
Yeah.
It's like you know, you'll start getting like long rambling things and he'll just punch the monitor and he'll be like, fuck it, I know what to do. Like,
it's one of the most...
I love like... Go ahead, Ben.
No, sorry. It's one of the most fascinating takes on the one-man army thing trope, which is that they take it to such a ludicrous level, it makes it kind of brilliant. Which is that it's slowly revealed that you are basically the Doomslayer, a mythical creature that will kill all of hell by himself. And you will.
Yup.
And I love like that's just the premise of the game, is that you're never not gonna get through things. You're gonna get through it, and you're just gonna kill everything in the thing. And I love like reading the side conversations and reading like how like demons are like pants shittingly terrified of you.
Yes.
Like I love like some of the side conversations, and they like freak the fuck out when they hear about you, and you're just like, oh man, there's something such like that game in terms of making you feel like a badass. Like it's in terms of like wish fulfillment gaming.
Absolutely.
It's probably like it's a master school in that kind of like you know, you're killing things in hard while doing it.
Totally. And I think just so many shooters now are
I love that.
I'm sorry.
So many shooters now are the cover based shooters, which are good for themselves, but I mean I think I just will always love my favorite games are like BioShock and Half-Life, which aren't as crazy fanatic as this, but aren't as like cover based or much more about run and gun, and this is just an epitome of run and gun, man. It is.
Yeah,
it's one of those games that actually like really you benefit from jumping all over the map and trying to escape your enemies and going everywhere. Like if you're one of the best things to do if you're low on health or ammo or something is go fucking shoot an enemy and punch him in the face, and then you'll get more ammo or more health. You know, that's what I love.
Which was a weird game mechanic for me to grasp at first, because especially like closing the distance with certain kinds of enemies, but you like really want it, like it like urges you to get up in people's faces and tear their skulls off and shit like that. Like and I mean I kind of like that reward system.
Out of ripping off skulls.
Yeah,
like it's kind of crazy. Like
Ben, did you play the multiplayer?
I don't have Xbox Live anymore, and I wanted to play it to see how bad it was. Apparently, but
it's really bad. It's really bad. And this is one of the things I'll say about it, is that multiplayer is so bad. And I know that you're like feel guilty about not supporting this game. I highly give this game a rent.
Right, that's fair. I think if you had the time, you could probably burn through it
in 2 days.
But that's the problem. Is like I want to support games that have awesome single player like this, and I wanted to make an amazing single player game, and then I know farmed out the multiplayer to a different company, which is unfortunate.
Oh, dude, you're gonna make me feel guilty for spending $20 on Titanfall.
That's fine.
Like,
this is more
no,
my
I spent
thing,
$30. Yeah,
but I still
no.
waited.
I agree with
I'm
you.
I'm a total hypocrite. I still waited till it was $20 for that very reason. You know what I mean? So
No, because I don't know. We've been burned by this sort of thing before. Like that's the thing is like, a lot of times, like after the fact how much you wanted to spend on this game, which is
Right.
always the thing. I feel like you buying beforehand. I was like, well, yeah, but here's the statistics on the game. It's about 10 hours. You can burn through it in a weekend. It's a great rent. And I said that. I think I said that a while ago at the time.
Yeah.
But now I agree with you. I want to support them, and especially like I think their sales numbers were pretty good after the fact.
I'm sure. It's always been one of those
what-
weird companies that has this weird blank check where they're like James Cameron, where they can just wait for fucking ever and like.
Yeah,
game
and you
randomly.
remember what was the game that came out? Was it Rage that came out before this?
Yeah, that was like 2011. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, and it was good. It was really, really good. I remember people saying about it, but it had the same sort of thing. It got buried underneath other shit.
Yeah, it wasn't. The problem is it just wasn't as fun. But like that game, you just look at their tech and you're just like, Jesus.
Yeah, it was pretty, but it was
Miles
also
ahead
like
everybody.
the art direction in that game sucked. Whereas this is like
Yeah.
beautiful and red, and like they went with the classic art design, and it really shows off their tech in great fashion here, as opposed to the other game, which was just like, oh look, another fucking desert.
Totally. I think we were just kind of tired of deserts.
They just went with the aesthetic that was of the time, and they just came out like after that time had essentially passed. But that's game
Right.
development,
But yeah, when you compare
which
it
we'll
to,
get
like,
to in a minute.
This is very true. But they're one of those weird
10 years
companies, man.
Sorry,
like
go ahead.
they're fascinating, and they can just take their time on stuff. And I think now I need to realize that like a James Cameron stuff, it's like when they make a game, you gotta play it, whether it's good or bad. You just
Right.
It's an event,
Right.
when it
Well,
makes a
I
new
disagree
game.
with that because, like, I've not been supporting Nintendo for about 10 years now, and like they're fucking fine.
No, that's true.
Like,
That's fair. I guess it is just a little bit different since it's just a single entity versus Nintendo. Okay, so moving on. Wait, do you hear that in the distance? Is that news report? It's a Save Point news report. So, first up, the voice actor strike has just entered its first full month. Now, for those who aren't aware, this is a collection of voice actors, a lot of major ones, particularly ones who are sort of the big faces of the industry, such as Jennifer Hale, who's of course Femme Shep. You've got Ray
Shep.
Chase, Phil Lamar, who's Samurai Jack, obviously, and Kathy Fairley, and just a ton of others. I think the total's now up to a couple hundred, maybe, but a lot of SAG people are just protesting them in general. Because they felt that something that's been talked about for a long time, which is that they're just not getting sort of equal pay for their time, that they're sort of asked to work these really long hours. There's not sort of a good system in place for if they have to come back. So I guess this question, where do you guys stand on all this protesting?
so let me just start with like an interesting counterpoint, and this is kind of more my experience with kind of the individual and being negative and kind of like Teamsters and that sort of thing in the past and some other things. To some extent, like I understand my own negative reaction to this is like, it's like, dude, everyone's job is hard. I don't get paid enough. Fuck you. Like, it's just like everyone tends to have this basic reaction
Right.
sometimes when you see somebody. It's like, I would like that job. You don't make enough. Fuck you. You're doing your dream. Like, and it's kind of like, it's very easy to say that, and it's very easy to understand that because that is my initial reaction. Like, I work a hard job. Fuck you. I would kill for your job. Why do you think you deserve to do this? And it just hurts content to begin with. So for me, a lot of times it's just like I get like I have negative, but then I think about it and I think about everything else, and I'm like, no, but people need to have living wages and people need this and that, and if they have the power, like it's all about the power. If they have the power to press the game industry to do this, then they should. There's not a question. Like if it's successful in the end, they should have done it. They did the right thing. They got what they
Right,
had.
and I remember one of the first people to talk about this was the guy who voiced Nico in Grand Theft Auto 4 a while back. And he had an interesting thing where he's like, he got paid super
Right.
well because he had like 2-3 years of recording. He recorded a ton for that game, obviously. But then he was like, I got to see zero of the residuals for that game, even though it is essentially my voice that is what everyone is playing. That would never happen with an actor, in a movie. And I can't work as much anymore because now my voice is super recognizable, and nobody wants to have Nico Bellic in their game, because then it's that game and not their game, So I do think there's an
And
interesting.
this comes back around to like how much should an actor make is, I guess, for me, like the point of comparison here. But he does have a point in terms of like it not being but I think the issue of it not being a sustainable career is a secondary thing. Should he make the money off residuals?
I think that there should be at least some residuals for a voice actor. I mean, even like bit players in movies get residuals. There was an interesting story Thomas Lennon told about the movie Hancock, where he was supposed to have a major role in the film, but then when he showed up on set, they didn't tell him that they'd cut his role completely, but he was already on set, so they're like, well, let's get you just do a thing. So he literally is on screen for 10 seconds where he goes, hey, Hancock, give me a phone call. And he's like, I got paid $11,000 for that in residuals. You know, so if we can manage to do that and spread the wealth of movies, I don't see why games can't figure out a way either. I know it's a bigger industry. Well, I don't know. Like, Hancock must have employed a couple 10,000 people. I can't see why we're shaking with talent, even if they're not visibly on screen, when we can't find residuals for those people.
I guess too, and it's harder for me to accept this for a gaming industry where I mean, and this is the thing, like, you know, you got to target individuals, you got to target the publishers here and how they're handling the talent. A lot of times for these game studios and these indie game studios and this voice talent and this secondary voice talent, I'm kind of like, I mean, should they really have to pay this much, or is it just like this expensive to get like that? I mean, and it's also the same thing with like job industries and stuff. Like, you know, I probably am on the cheaper side as a wedding photographer, but I kind of corner the market on that kind of thing and that kind of purchase rate. But that doesn't necessarily support me, and I do secondary jobs to do it. And I guess the issue is like, from somebody looking in, it's very hard for me to kind of accept the kind of pay scale that you want for their top-end guys. And I guess that's also the secondary thing is like, you know, there are other people in this industry that just don't have a voice. And because that they're so – and it's the same thing with actors. Actors – eventually get their way with, like, in terms. I mean, there's never really an actor strike. I guess there has to have been some point in history. Ben, you're the history. You're the
I don't remember
history
anyone
nerd.
recently, but I'm certain that there's been SAG strikes. There's just been a lot of writer strikes mostly because writers tend to get screwed the most. But there's probably been a SAG strike at some point or another.
Well, I guess that's my point is like, you know, how much do game writers get paid? How much do game creatives get paid? And I think that's the thing, as something where it's like, you know, the movie industry feels like it's more established, and maybe it's just better at fucking people. I don't know. Probably it is.
Yeah, it's better at supporting some people and fucking other people over. I mean, definitely.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. But for me, I don't feel like I don't feel like they're making so much money that I'm just all of a sudden that they necessarily like deserve to be the same levels. Like, there's so much in this, but that's also stupid. It's like, because you're trying to fix something, you know, because something else is broke, saying you can't fix that, which is also a fucking, you know, a bad fucking way to do it. I'm not disagreeing with anything here, by the way. Like, please don't send me a bunch of hate mail. I'm not disagreeing with any of this. I'm just saying, like, I have such a negative, visceral reaction to strikes, and I'm just kind of wondering why, and what part of that is me and what part of that is like people convincing me of that or something.
I think it's your natural reaction. I do think in general people have issues with that. I mean, I hear a lot of people whenever, like, you know, a sports team will strike, you know, that's when you hear the most, like, you get paid millions of dollars, and it's like, on one hand you
should be appreciative.
Yeah, on one hand you're like, well, they do get paid millions of dollars, but then you're also like, well, their career could end at any time, and they have to use all that money for the rest of their lives, essentially, because not, like, what, 3 of them are going to have endorsement deals for a while, you know? So it's like, I don't know, it's tough it is tough, because it's like, I heard a very heartbreaking story on a podcast about this woman who wanted to be a voice actress, and she basically had to do, like, essentially, like, phone sex stuff just to make money, and it's just, like, devastating for her. So it's like, yeah, you know, she must be like, maybe I wouldn't blame her if she was like, fuck you, I'd work for scale, I don't care, like, at least I'd be doing what I want to do. But then you can also understand, like, well, you want it to be sustainable and you want to keep your good talent around, and if this is making talent want to leave, then it's a bad thing.
I mean, I agree with that, and I think it's just like they need to make decisions on kind of like how first off, like, really, like, is phone sex super demeaning? I guess it is.
I think if she finds it demeaning, I
mean, I guess
for her, you know.
I mean, I guess it would be like more of a personal level, like if you find it demeaning or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess, like, I don't know. Like, why did she have to go into
I'm
phone
not going
sex
to argue about the
specifically?
podcast person.
Like, I mean,
referencing.
it's just it's a weird thing, and it's very like
I may
it's very
even
like
have the
she's
details
suggesting that
wrong.
was forced into prostitution, but it's like you can't work at like a McDonald's. I don't know. I guess like I guess like that aside seems really weird to me, and I'm not questioning her story. I'm sure it is, and I'm sure she had a talent and was able to make more money that way. It's just and wanted to improve her art.
Let's not talk about the podcast I referenced. Let's just move on.
I'm sorry. It's just that it does. I don't mean to call it funny. I just mean to call it like she was. It's like a classical like she was forced into prostitution story, except it's phone sex. I shouldn't laugh. I'm a terrible person. Please let's move on to the next story.
All right, let's move on to the next story.
What do you think? What do you think? Oh, hold on. What do you think, Peter?
Honestly, like this is me learning about the issue fresh myself. So I was more of just listening to you two and going back and forth. It'll probably take me a minute to like come up with my own opinion about how I feel about it in full. So I can't really say I have an opinion right now, but check back in later.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that mixed up nature is definitely how I feel about it as well. I'll say that mixed up.
That's fair.
Mixed
It
up.
is interesting. I will say that this is just a socio-political thing. We don't have to get into it because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about with it. But this is a very, very weird aside. But if you've ever watched the, I recommend watching just the commercials of the Star Wars Holiday Special. They come with it because you get to see these 70s commercials, and 70s commercials loved unions. It was very odd. They were always like, "Unions are great. Here's our union song." And it's like, man, times have changed. So anyways, that's all I can say. It's just
they had themes.
If you want to see what culture was kind of like
legit
in a weird
jingles.
way, I recommend like trying to find just a block of old commercials because I find it very fascinating sometimes. But anyways, back on to things that actually matter, which is now, Jack, you just wrote in here Titanfall 2 already $30. I'm just curious what you meant by this one.
Oh yeah.
Someone is upset.
So there was a price drop on Titanfall 2, at least at the voice to it. I'm trying to find something to corroborate that right now because I don't want to leave air without having corroborated it somewhere. But it was $30. I got initially on sale. So here's the thing: Titanfall 2 was on sale from nearly day one at Target for $30. I got it there. I got Battlefield 1 at the same time. But I think it's just now at $30, and it may have just been a continuous sale. But because it was like released through the holiday season, it's literally never been bought practically at $60, and that's just another weird thing to think about, that this game was never like purchased at full price, even at the majority of it, like the height of this game, and even at the poor numbers it's doing. So, but that's weird to me because it probably suggests is like you look at MBDs, but that's probably half as much as what you'd actually think that game would be making, because it was never except for like day one adapters, was probably never even bought for $60 fucking bucks, because it was like literally within 2 days it was down to 30 and then had multiple sales through Black Friday, and now is just sitting at 30.
That's crazy.
Okay, let me again.
I mean, they should have waited, right? Like we all agree, EA should have just waited and pushed it back. It would have been worse if they pushed it back. I don't think it would have changed much. I mean, maybe people would have thought there was problems, but releasing it right after Battlefield on your same company is just insane to me. It's such a weird decision.
Well, let's take this series that's not as well established and fucking throw it under the tank
Right, it's like,
juggernaut.
could you
of the
imagine if
holiday
Marvel
season.
released Doctor
Right.
Strange the week after Civil War? Like, that's basically what they did. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
Right.
because and I don't understand it. It's because it's fuck Respawn. Like, it's really like, and this is the big thing too. It's like, for me, like, I understand wanting to get more money out of publishers. I agree that there's like an infinite point of business, but this is like the same sort of thing with like doctors and insurance companies. Insurance companies make the majority of the fucking money. Like publishers make the fucking money. Why are we fucking like dicing up? Like, I don't know. Sorry, I didn't.
well, that has been Jack's weekly rant about how fucked up the Titanfall 2 release was.
Yeah, I have to keep putting these in there. Sorry, I did just add another story, so I
No, it's
apologize
okay. I
for
was
that.
skimming it during your rant, so it was good timing.
Yeah, no, I know you. I
But
figured
this-
that. I figure we were just buying
This
time.
is a good story. I like this. So, Jack found
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
that a VR, that these sales for VR during Black Friday have actually been a lot worse than they expected. Particularly, this is interesting. I just read they only sold 750,000 PSVR units, and their estimate was 2.6 million. So,
Wow.
what do we think about
Yeah.
that?
So this is the big thing. PSVR has not been, essentially, it hasn't been essentially a console to sale, and that's the thing, is it's not new hardware. It's not being taken off, and it's being hurt because the central premise of this article here is that they're suggesting is that Sony pushed new hardware, i.e. the PS4 Pro, at the same damn time.
Another cannibalization problem.
Exactly.
Yeah,
No, this is the PS4 Pro. It's going to eat up the sales of the PS4. It's going to eat up the sales of the PSVR. There's going to be no adoption basis. You're never going to get online shooters in VR. It's going to kill like the nature of the game and the player apps of the game, the player base, and no one's going to want to develop for it because they're not going to make any money. So it's only going to be first party games. And they're never going to do it for first party games as well as Nintendo does. And it's just going to be a giant shit show. I'm calling it PSVR is dead.
I mean, I kind of figured PSVR was going to be dead earlier this year when for like 5 seconds Square was part of Square's advertising for Final Fantasy 15 included you being able to play as Prompto, the guy with the guy with the gun in VR mode. And the second I saw that, I was like, okay, PSVR is a fucking
the most
joke.
annoying fuck on the face of the planet. Like I was reading the Kotaku article. The only thing that's bad about this game is you have to fucking try to not throw Prompto out of the fucking car.
Oh well, then this is going to be fun when I get the game tomorrow.
Oh, God.
PSVR sales plummet even further when George Lucas announces you can watch Episode 1 through the eyes of Jar Jar Binks.
Oh God, kill me now.
That's what it feels like,
Right.
though. I mean, I think for me the biggest bug here is that there's not. I'm not saying it's dead. I'm saying
It's a
like
bad start.
they need
It's
to
a
do.
real bad start.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
a real bad start. They're gonna essentially, I think, they need to make a decision here now whether VR is going to be a thing or not, and if they decided that it is, they're going to need to take a loss in the PSVR.
Yeah, and
to
we
make it
were
work.
saying that PSVR was kind of going to be the thing that would have to sell VR to the masses, because it obviously cut corners to be a little bit cheaper. It's nowhere near as
Right.
good as the Vive
Right.
as everyone says, but it's good enough.
And there was really good Black Friday deals on like a VR headset of like the Vive, and I was like, "Damn, that's pretty." There was moments when I was like, $500. That's not too bad. And then I thought, "Well, fuck."
Yeah, I think the problem is you just have to get more people to somehow put a VR helmet on their face. Like I have not done it, and I know it's amazing. And maybe if I try and do
If
it,
you wanted to sell this, you needed to spend the money on the ground to put this in fucking Best
totally,
Buy.
you need a spot.
Yes.
That's what this
You need
needed.
a VR room or something.
Like-
like they have at their expensive music rooms.
Yeah. Yeah, that's those things exist. That's how you sell product. Like,
Right.
This is just like they just wanted it to sell on Buzz, and they cut corners, and it feels like an abortion of a launch. Oh God, that's a terrible way
You
of
and
putting
your
it.
word choice. It's great.
I'm
loving it, Jack.
off, man. I'm off,
You're good,
dude.
man.
I'm
I
just
think,
yeah.
I think me comparing Moana to rape will always be down there as the worst. So you got a long way to go.
that was like I like we were like all silent for like
5
like
seconds.
a
Yeah.
minute.
Seconds.
Like it was
Like just in
just
pure
like
shock.
Yeah.
bad.
Well, I think that should do
my
it
God.
for news this
Yeah,
week.
let's move on.
For Jack's
So
sake.
this
Oh,
week
thank God.
our topic is, since Final Fantasy 15 is finally out and none of us has gotten to play it, we'll be talking about that plenty next week, I'm sure. But in the meantime, we just want to talk a little bit about the very long development process of Final Fantasy 15 and sort of games that have come in and out of development hell. So does anyone want to sort of sum up as best they can?
Peter. Peter.
Yeah. I think I can give a good summation of everything. Okay, so Final Fantasy 15 was first announced at E3, the Electronic Entertainment Expo in LA. Is it in LA?
I believe San Diego or
Yeah.
LA?
Yeah.
California.
San Diego.
So it was first announced at E3 in 2006, but it was originally announced as Final Fantasy Versus 13. The reason for this is because Square wanted to create a sub-series within their overall Final Fantasy series called Fabula Nova Crystallis, which would include Final Fantasy Versus 15, Final Fantasy 13, of course, and then Final Fantasy Agito 13. These three games would all be completely separate, but would share the same mythos, and it would be up to their to their respective developing teams and how they interpreted that mythos in creating their game. Basically, this shit took a long fucking time. Even a Jito 13, that one eventually became what we all know as Final Fantasy Type 0. Final Fantasy 13, of course, went on to get like 13.2 and then Lightning Returns, and
so we got 3
varying
regular
degrees.
13 games before we even got 13 verses, which
before we got 15, and then finally in 2012, after Square giving like basically no information at fucking all. At E3 in 2012, Square in this awesome trailer, basically rebranded Versus 13 as 15 because of how much time it was taking to essentially even come up with like a solid story concept. We switched directors from Tetsuya Nomura, who is mostly known for Kingdom Hearts. The main director is now Hajime Tabata, who took over in 2012. We got a change in scriptwriter to Saori Itamuro. We got a changing in clothing designer to Hiro from Nomura himself to Hiromu Takahara, who is the lead designer of Japanese fashion house Roen. Music is still done by Yoko Shimomura, who does Kingdom Hearts. We got a change in the engine that they were developing on. Now it's an engine called Lumina Studio, which is in-house, custom built for advanced lighting technology and shit. Change in world design, change in, like a slight tweaking in battle systems. I mean, this game has been through a lot in 10 years' time. To the point that before 2012. Like a lot of video game experts and journalists were considering Versus 13, now 15, to be nothing but vaporware, aka in development hell. As we were talking about, it exists kind of, but it's never going to see the light of day. And yeah, it's been a long fucking
very well said, Peter.
To this shit.
Yeah,
Fuck
this
me.
game.
Sorry, it's a lot. It's a lot.
This game. Like, there was struggles, like you said, with the Vegeta, but it still came out, 4 years before this? Why was it this game so troublesome? Was it just the top brass?
So, I have a theory, and I'm wondering if you guys will indulge me for a moment.
Of course.
Love to indulge.
No, yeah, go.
I know, everyone indulges me.
We all indulge each other, shut up.
I know. One of the things that was hit to me is that I read an article, and I honestly am not trying to not give the person credit who did it. I honestly can't remember it. This was like back when Final Fantasy 13 was initially coming out. So I guess, what was that, like 10 years ago?
Yeah. Initially coming out was 2009.
When did that?
Yeah. So it was
Wow,
announced
3 years,
was 10 years
10
ago.
years ago,
Yeah,
Right.
so it's 2009. So it's actually not that far behind, but it is quite a while ago as compared. But one of the things that happened back then, as they said, at the failure of Final Fantasy 13, and what to my mind kicked off the development hell of Versus 13, was the fact that it did so poorly critically initially. Well, I mean, if you look at movie critics, it still hasn't technically done poorly overall.
fan reaction was
but the
awful.
issue is. Yeah. The fan reaction said this is the worst fucking thing ever, and it was
if you
terrible.
haven't seen the JonTron 20-second video, it kind of sums it up perfectly. Where he's like,
Well,
I thought that initial trailer was amazing, but that's
it was another moment for me in kind of like people talking about it in terms of like, like it was also one of those moments where people had to face the fact that it wasn't necessarily, just the mortar and brick critics that mattered anymore. It was also JonTron, who was having a more effect on the game sales than they thought was actually happening in terms of that. So that was a major change as well around that time. Final Fantasy 13 kicked off a lot of issues in the industry, but it also kicked off a lot of think pieces about how to fix kind of these games and how to bring Final Fantasy into the new century. And I think that's the issue, is that Final Fantasy 12 was put off, but it was, to my mind, always the way to bring things into the new century, and it was just dropped on its head and wasn't allowed to like breathe, and people weren't happy with it, and then people like murdered 13. So I think the historical issue here is that they didn't know how to make this game, and then they spent the last 10 years figuring it out. I'd like to say that's possible, but I don't think that's necessarily what happened. I think that they just felt entirely lost, and the existence of this game initially was something very, 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 very different.
Totally.
I think that's how.
And one of my questions.
I think that's how most development hell
Good.
happens. It would be my guess.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, and to go and to kind of expand upon you saying like how they didn't really know where they were going. They didn't have much of a focus. I remember when Versus 13 was first announced. Nomura, who came up with the original story concept along with like being director, he wanted to his goal was that he wanted the game to be based more in reality while still having like some fantasy, some fantasy elements to it, and it was a lot of work trying to figure out how exactly to tack that down, like how to move forward. Like you can go to the wiki page, which has like almost 200 reference links for all this shit. There's a part in it where when Tabata was brought on as director, he was even quoted saying like, yeah, this game was like 20-30% like done, not even that deep necessarily into development when we finally like switched over, and that was after 6 years of development.
Exactly, and I think you look at sort of the games that have notably come out of development hell, particularly sort of like Team Fortress 2 or Doom, which I just played. They will often have like a moment where they just straight up dump everything. That's what's crazy about Team Fortress 2 is there's early shots where it looks just like Team Fortress 1 with just more classes and more stuff. Doesn't have this cartoony art style, and then all of a sudden it just disappears for 4 years and then comes back with this crazy different look and this much more fun cartoony style and these much more interestingly designed characters, and it's a huge hit. And taking a risk like that can be very tough though, and you have to kind of be a Square Enix or a Valve where you have these kind of huge balls and you just say fuck it, where then Valve does this thing where they never even tell me if Half-Life is ever fucking coming back. It's coming there, but the rant is always there. Where Valve can both take the balls and be like, we're going to take 10 years to make Team Fortress 2, and is one of the great multiplayer games, still super popular, 5-6 years later. And then they can just be like, fuck you, our greatest series of all time, Half-Life, we're just never going to tell you what's going to happen to it. It's just like...
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool. B, like, well, no, it's not cool. Sorry, somebody just like these dudes just messaged us and want to do some like podcast cross promotion. It's pretty cool. So we're gonna see how that turns out. Sorry, I'm like reading and multitasking. You have my full attention now, podcast listeners. I swear. Especially with like kind of like the direction that some of these games down, you can tell that it wasn't ever there. My question is like, here's the thing. Especially with like the form of reality, how hyper cool that trailer was, and it felt like they had a core concept of ideas that this is going to go in the direction that this game was always going to go into. But there's no way they had that engine built, or to my mind, could have built the engine as it is now in a game back when it was first announced.
Oh no, they definitely didn't have the engine. I mean, this game was originally supposed to be a PS3 exclusive. If you wanna have a comparison of like the processing power, you can look at how many you can look the polygon count for like a character's hair, like. Right now, with the game currently like as released, it's like estimated 20,000 polygons for fucking hair, and that's like the number used for an entire character last generation. It just
sums up
like
Square Enix
hair,
so much. How much
hair.
Yeah,
like they had a damn hairstylist come in to make sure that the hair designs were like realistic.
No, it's anime hair. It all looks fucking terrible anyways.
I mean,
damn it.
Yeah.
I like this is those things. Is like sometimes like I see real life cosplayers like play it really close to like anime styles, and I'm like, yeah, I think it's more approximating reality than anything else.
Do you ever feel like
the subtle anime?
Do you ever feel like sometimes game makers just try to make the most impossible cosplay possible just to see people do it? I swear to God, sometimes I see stuff and I'm like, try it, asshole. Just try to make that shit.
Try to put this many belts and chains and shit on your body. Go for it.
No, dude, I totally agree, and I think that one of the things is that's going to be apparent here soon is just that like one I'm wondering is if sometimes, and this is something that I've kind of taken from Dark Souls and some of the other things, one of my questions is that the Japanese development process is very different from the American version. Whereas like Americans tend to think in kind of plot and structure tones, sometimes I feel like Japanese people develop a sense and theme and core idea of what the series should be like before they develop the story. And one of the big complaints I've seen is that the storytelling in this game is terrible, again, because it's gone so open world, and this is the thing. And that's one of the things that I'm going to say is, like, I don't think Dark Souls has bad storytelling, but I think that the storytelling is always secondary for the theme and the vibe and the setting
like
that
the
it
exploration
gives you.
and stuff.
Exactly. And I think this is a departure, because this is Final Fantasy finally doing, and well, it's not finally doing. I mean, technically Final Fantasy's always been open, but you know what I mean. Like a truly
Right.
like move around in the environment. It is the world you are in. The world you are there. Like that's kind of like the new thing that they're doing, and I think this is the first one like it. So it's hard for me to like pass judgment, but it's just interesting. What do you think about like, I guess like that kind of like takeaway? And do you think that like this is because like a lot of people say Final Fantasy 15 will succeed or Final Fantasy will cease to be a thing?
Oh yeah, I have seen that. This is a make or break game essentially.
Yeah, for the not just for, and other people have said it, and I disagree with it because it was said back during 13 was the big thing that was said back then, and I think that there has been JRPGs, and I think with Dark Souls, the advent of Dark Souls, and the Souls becoming a mainstream series, I think that and you know Metal Gear and everything, I think that like not Metal Gear specifically, but like you know Kojima and everything, I think that like Japanese games will continue to be here, but whether or not they continue to take the form of JRPGs as we currently define them is a big question. And I think that's the thing. It's like whether like Final Fantasy apparently has to succeed for us to continue to get JRPGs exported to us, because they might not.
Right. And
Dragon Quest is a serious question.
And that's an interesting point, because like the Persona series has following, but it's never going to be Final Fantasy big.
Right. It won't
and
be.
so that's the question is like
At least never in the U.S. like it is.
right,
in
and you
Japan.
make a good point, because there was this
Right.
history time where like Kingdom Hearts 2 is one of the highest selling games of all time, and on PS2. You know, it's like a massive hit. Final Fantasy X, I knew everyone played that game. So there was this moment where it was like in the mainstream completely. And so are you saying like, is it going to change, like that we're not going to have sort of mainstream JRPGs anymore if this fails? That we're not going to see sort of these big events, and we're only going to get kind of the Personas or the small sort of niche stuff for the niche markets.
Yeah.
I think it'll just. I think like they will. I think whether or not 15 succeeds or fails, I think either way, because that is something that is being called into question. Japanese game developers should start to like look into, okay, how can we tweak, how can we change our process for developing these games? Because I mean, like much like everything else, like things change and have to evolve and move on. So it's like they have to. That's gonna be something that they have to consider, regardless of how this game does in sales and reviews.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, I just want to point out that I'm committed. I'm going to play Persona 5 when it comes out. I've never played.
Fuck me, Ben.
I've never played a Persona game. Everyone says it's one of the greatest series of all time, and this one's apparently just as good according to Japanese reviews. So I'm gonna do it. I know it's like 9,000 hours long, but I'm gonna try because it's one of those series I need to try.
They're like honestly, they're like, I guess that's my thing is like sometimes it's funny too, because I'm obviously going to play Final Fantasy, even though it's a lot of things, but like Persona is just so fucking intimidating, because they just like
there's
unabashedly say like, oh hey, here's like 5,000 hours of gameplay.
Yeah, there's a specificity. I can't say specificity. I think yeah. There's a specific thing about Persona that doesn't necessarily exist in that many other games, or at least games that have a semi-wide following that people know about, hear about.
Yeah,
it's a different breed.
Yeah, it's very. I mean, it's just kind of weird. It's just
Yep.
kind of weird, and it's just Japanese markets and American markets not matching up in like the terms of what people ask for.
Yeah, man, I do wonder if Final Fantasy like it's just too weird now or too distant. But I'm not sure how Final Fantasy is still treated in Japan.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know.
And it's one of those things, and it was like a criticism of like the worst boss in Dark Souls was that of the Last King. And I heard this guy on well, it's actually on Bonfire Side chat, and he like criticized the Last King, saying it's too anime. And I was like, what does that mean?
Right.
And as somebody that does like I have an anime podcast, like clearly I took that like offensively. It's like nothing is too anime, you dweeb.
Right. Like if someone's like, well,
right,
it's just too anime. You're
but-
like, that's the point. You know.
Exactly. And I think
that
that's the thing is
literally
like
the
it's
point.
like I really don't want these games to change in any shape or form, but I'm wondering if like the way anime has become and shaped here, being an intense insular culture here in the United States, I wonder if it's hard for Final Fantasy to seem mainstream anymore. And I wonder if that's the thing is like, you know, Final Fantasy, like the culture might have niched Final Fantasy, and that's just why they're surprised that it doesn't do the numbers it once did. To some extent, it's just a niche game. People don't pick up games with like 5 Bishonen boys on it anymore.
Right.
Like they just don't.
I'm telling you, it's a damn boy band. Like, legitimately a boy band. This is not Final Fantasy 15 is not a journey for Noctis from Noctis to go from prince to king. This is a journey of the 4 of them to find their 5th member, because Noctis is the mysterious one, Gladius is the sexy one, Ignis is the smart one, Prompto is the happy-go-lucky one, but they don't have that solid foundation, which means that they will forevermore be just a B-level boy band. They're just a B-level boy band. They will never crack Billboard 100 top 10. They'll never get there.
I don't know, dude. I think.
No,
I was about to say something serious about it. I don't know.
Clearly a fan.
No, say it serious.
It's like I think they could. I don't know, man. They look great. They look great. Did you see that mixtape? They're about to juke the hottest mixtape of the year.
Oh yeah, their mixtape is gonna be fire.
Like them on the beach.
Straight
I will
fire.
say that's somebody's already like complaining about like how Prompto's always like screaming to pull over and take a picture and stuff. So
Honestly, I would like, you may not see it as much nowadays, but I would still consider that to be like, I think a lot of people have that one friend who wants to stop in every 5 feet and take a picture of something, and it's like, it's gonna be annoying, but there's some truth behind this.
damn, you and me can't go on road trips.
I'm not saying that it's me. I will.
No,
take
I'm
pictures
saying it's me.
Oh, it's you.
You and me.
You take
we're
pictures?
We're gonna walk there and take pictures the whole way. It's gonna be beautiful.
Jack's a
Oh, hell
camera
yeah, let's
person,
do
You
it.
know, blow up our Instagram. Yeah, I know, dude. There are no pictures of me because I take one of
Exactly.
everyone else.
That's what a photographer
Okay,
does.
good, because people don't take enough pictures of me, and I can't
I know.
remember to do selfies all the damn time.
All right.
Oh,
I know we started talking about Drum Hell, but I think we talked a little more culturally about Final Fantasy, which I think was fairly interesting. Oh, before we go, I think one thing I want to mention is I think it is interesting the Conan plays Final Fantasy, because I do wonder if that's sort of where the culture is at with Final Fantasy, because he was vicious. He was really mean.
He was vicious. Yeah, he was vicious, but like, at least for me, it remained in the back of my mind that like they even showed it like in the video. They were just randomly dropping
They're
him
really
at
real
different
weird
points in the
choices,
game
yeah.
with really no explanation. They were just like, hey, you're on the road pushing your car.
Yeah.
Go. Why am I here? You just are.
Yeah, they
Go.
really should have just been like, here's a big guy, you get a fight and do cool stuff, you know, like the sexy stuff. I don't
Right.
know why they almost
Yeah.
like I almost wonder if they wanted more of a negative reaction from him, because it was a very odd choice. But it was like, that's the thing where it's like the niche audience was like, oh, I love that, because that is part of those games, but it's kind of why I love them, for their cheesy, silly car pushing parts, you know. But I do wonder if like the general audience is like, ugh, it looks terrible, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I thought I didn't like that bit because, yeah, I guess like when I actually care about a game, and I don't really care about Final Fantasy 15 so much, but so much of my youth is JRPGs, and so much of the future of JRPGs in the West is tied up in Final Fantasy 15. So I guess like this is not the game I want, but I want to buy this game so that the other games will come back. I don't know. I know that there's never a reason. I don't think that's a reason to buy a game. First off, the market will support what it can support, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, because if you put support on one thing and you forget the next thing, it's not going to matter. You know what I mean? Like it's.
Yeah.
And also, I think people just
Yeah.
The general audience doesn't care. I think it's one thing I've learned about movies, and I've learned about video games too. It's like the general audience isn't online; they buy what they want to buy, and they don't talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, like
They
people
walk
talk,
into a
because
store
people talk about
already
like
knowing what
box
they're gonna
art
pick up.
mattering, and I was like, who the fuck gives a shit what's on the box? And then you realize
Right.
that like people really, really, really,
Totally.
really do. They buy games
yeah,
that way.
like most
Like,
people
they-
learn about a movie
yeah.
from TV spots, like or radio commercials. Like honestly,
right,
Right.
posters.
right. That's a
Radio
thing.
spots and word of
Yeah.
mouth.
Maybe we should get a radio spot.
Save Point Podcast.
You like listening to radio? Go listen to this podcast. It's killing the radio. Fuck you guys.
Fuck you, radio. Come
Podcast
help kill
killing
it.
Radio star.
Fuck you too, radio.
We don't have ads unless we get a lot of viewers, then we'll totally have ads.
I will totally,
We will totally do
fucking
ads.
slam this shit with ads. I will paste ads across Ben's goddamn forehead.
Casper
There will
mattresses.
be ads so far up our
my
ass.
God.
We will like have ads in every hole and every orifice and everything. We will have ads
Ben, are
everywhere.
you ready to be a living, breathing, walking?
Yeah, I'll be
billboard?
a embodiment of Casper mattress. I'll just play
Squarespace,
Casper
we will
mattress the
suck
character.
your dick. We will suck your dick
Yeah,
so
well,
hard. Who
this will be
else
Save Point,
supports people
hosted
sometimes?
by Casper Mattress and a Stamps.com.
Those,
and,
yeah, that stupid mattress company. I will sleep on your mattress, and I will personally lick the ear of everyone that sleeps on one of your mattresses. Give me ads.
Oh God.
You have not even begun to see how much I can sell.
You don't understand
Meanwhile,
the
all of our
depths.
listeners are instantly like, I don't want to know.
When I sell out
We're
hard.
going all out, baby.
Balls
Welcome
to
to
the
the
wall.
Final Fantasy 15 podcast. Final Fantasy all the time because Final Fantasy is the best game ever. They in no way give us money.
Final Fantasy is life. Better recognize, bitch.
Oh, Lord.
I wish they gave us money.
All right.
They don't even give us fucking copies of the game.
Well, now that we've sold out our souls in a very lovely way, I think that'll do it for the Save Point podcast for this week. I want to thank.
Yeah.
I was going to say Sarah. I'm used to Geek Space 9.
Seriously, this is like 2/3 Geek Space 9,
Sarah,
Jack. I'm sorry.
thanks,
You're
Sarah.
not
For me. I'm
Shit
glad that I
quiet
was
this week.
Thanks
Love you, Sarah.
for Jack being on.
Thanks, Jack and Peter, for being on.
Thanks, Ben. We appreciate it.
And
Love you so
as
much.
always, be sure to check out the rest of our shows at TuscanShed.com, all the Tuscan Shed Media Network shows. We've got Geek Space 9, as I just mentioned. We are back, baby. We are back to releasing once a week on Thursdays, starting with Season 2, Episode 1 through 3, so be on lookout for that. We also have Beast for Bros. It's on hiatus till the show is back, but we are covering Game of Thrones. You can hear us talk about Season 6 all day long. And especially listen to our last episode. It was very drunk. And then we have Movie Gang Podcast, where we talk about movies.
Yeah.
We start getting to Oscar season, and we have no idea what to talk about because there's like 8 goddamn movies that are released a week because that's how
It really pisses
that's how
me
Hollywood
off.
does it, because they're jerks. But right now is a great time before it's February, nothing's out. So at least get on it now. And then we also have
can you get an
Animania,
Oscar?
as mentioned, talking about the world of anime. What have you guys been talking about recently, Jack?
So we just, we're actually getting ready to do the full review of Izetta, The Last Witch, which is a new show that just came out this
fun.
fall. Peter, you saw it. Didn't you see Izetta?
I've
Yeah.
seen part of it. Yeah.
It's about a witch that rides a giant fucking gun.
Nice.
It's really great. It's got some good Yuri. So the two main female characters, they're always like Yuri baiting Sarah. It's really hilarious because they won't let the ship sail, but they'll lay in bed together and kind of caress each other's face. It's great.
Are you guys,
I love how frustrating I can make Sarah with some of this shit.
it's a confusing title. It's actually a yaoi
cruel.
series, but have you been watching Yuri on Ice, Jack?
Yeah. Well, they're named Yuri. Yeah, it's really up there right now. We're gonna do that one. I just don't know. It's not confirmed like the exact number of episodes yet, so I'm trying to
Right,
figure
once
out
it's over.
when it really makes it a bitch for reviewing. It's good. They actually did confirm that they're gay, though. They actually kissed on air, so it was really, really
shit.
good. So they, we were worried for a while that they were going to do the same sort of gay baiting thing, but no, they went full in, and I think I really appreciate them for that.
good.
It's like, at first, my first review of Yuri on Ice was like, oh, it's free, but free is better, and I still think free is good, but free is gay baiting, and this is not, and I think that's what makes it progressive, even if the story, to my mind, is not as good as free.
All right.
Yeah.
So be sure
Yeah.
to check out Animania.
I just did that. I don't know. I throw you a review. Go check out Animania.
That's great. And that will do it for Save Point for us. If you like this show, or if you don't like this show, rate, review, like, and subscribe it. Actually, if you don't like this show, don't do that. Just stop listening.
Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, please stay away if you don't.
Why are you listening to the
Yeah,
end of the
you
show you
stuck
don't
around.
like?
You're
You
committed.
monster.
How'd you get this far?
Fuck you.
All right, I think that'll do it, guys. Thanks so much for listening.
I really need to stop telling our viewers to fuck off.
We just said the ones that don't like us.